Byron, could you please say us a couple of words about yourself, introduce yourself, where you come from, what is your background, from educational background?
Okay. I'm from Canada, from a province in Newfoundland and Labrador, which is on the east coast of Canada. I have studied in university as a chemical engineer, and I hold a license as a practicing chemical engineer. I've been in the nuclear industry for 19 years, including working for the federal regulator of Canada, and now at Bruce Power. I have occupied or conducted many different jobs and positions in projects, operations, maintenance, and now I'm an operations training manager.
Do you mind to tell us a couple of words about this utility, this power plant? Because according to our information, it is one of the largest in Canada.
Yeah.
Largest one.
Yes. Bruce Power is, I think, regarded as the second largest nuclear facility in the world, and certainly the largest facility in Canada. We are located on a freshwater Great Lake basin near Toronto.
Well, thank you very much for this information. Now we have confirmed that the Bruce Power is one of the largest nuclear power plants in the world and the largest in Canada. And the 8 reactors you operate at Bruce Power are all Canadian design. Do you happen to know any other countries that would utilize the Canadian design CANDU?
Yes. There are reactors located in Argentina, Romania, China, and South Korea. I think the most recent building of the reactors were in China.
Canada operates 19 nuclear reactors that would provide 16.5% of the electricity in the total energy pie. What are the prospects of the development of nuclear power industry in Canada?
I think the prospects of further building of nuclear power in Canada is actually quite low right now. Most effort is focused on life extension of the existing nuclear fleet of reactors, much like the efforts that are underway at Ripney. Most of the energy supply, new energy supply in Canada is focused on green technology like windmills and solar, similar to what the approach that Germany is taking. But it's an expensive endeavor.
I would like to ask you a question, to ask you as an expert, for you having such a diverse portfolio, such a diverse experience. Do you have what is your assessment of the general trends on the nuclear power industry development in the world? Are they going up or going down?
I certainly don't consider myself an expert in that area, for sure. But I do think there is room for expansion of nuclear energy in the world. Certainly more countries like India, China, there are markets where it's expanding rapidly. And I think for the other countries, I think any new prospects of building are considered very carefully against the demands. And with green energy, with conservation, it's going to be an interesting future for nuclear.
Well, the world operating experience has revealed a long-standing problem which is related to power units decommissioning. How is this issue solved in Canada?
In Canada, there are efforts underway to look at long-term storage of low-level and intermediate-level waste. Those efforts are going through a public review right now, but that certainly is not a solution yet for the high-level waste, the most radioactive components of the station operation. So I think, like many other countries, Canada also has to think very hard about the long-term storage of such waste, and put together policies and law that consider long-term storage. I think some countries are actually further ahead in that respect. One I'm familiar with is Finland, for example. I think we have some areas to learn from other countries in that matter.
What are the key differences of RNPP from similar small nuclear power plants in Canada?
Not as many differences as you would think, and it's amazing that I have been in many nuclear stations both in Canada and the U.S., and this is the first time I've seen this particular design of reactor. But I'm always surprised at how small the nuclear community is and how similar practices are around the world. I've also experienced nuclear operations and have spent some time in the CANDU reactors in South Korea. And again, it's refreshing, surprising, but reassuring that very much the conditions, the practices are very well aligned around the world.
Is it your first time in Ukraine? And if yes, what were your knowledge and awareness of Ukraine when you came here? Before you came here?
Yes, it was. This is my first time in Ukraine. Certainly in Canada, I think we have a strong awareness of some of the issues underway in the country, especially to the east and in some other areas of conflict. And Canadians follow that closely in our news as well. So I was familiar with Ukraine from that perspective, but also in Canada, it's hard to meet anyone in a small circle of friends who does not have a connection to Ukraine somehow. People have family connections. It's very, very common.
How do you think, what will be the thing that you will remember most about Ukraine when you go? And did you like the Ukrainian cuisine?
Yes. For one thing, I do very much like Ukrainian cuisine, and actually the dish borscht is something that we have commonly at home, and I was pleasantly surprised that it was as good as here. So yes, the food's been wonderful, very, very good. I think what I feel most, or what I remember most about Ukraine is it reminds me of the East Coast where I grew up. People there you will find very friendly, very modest, generous. They want to get to know you. You become instant friends. And I was surprised to experience that here. Not that I thought it wouldn't happen, but I was just pleasantly surprised that this area, region, and the people I met here and the way I was treated felt like home. Certainly our Prime Minister in Canada has described the special relationship that Canada has with Ukraine, and I don't think I really understood that until I was here.
And what are your impressions of the Varaj town? What is your feeling about the level of maturity of the infrastructure, and if compared to small towns in Canada, is there anything that we would be able to learn from the Canadian towns to replicate here in our town?
I really don't know. I mean, at Bruce Power we are 2 to 3 hours away from big city centers, and so we also live in a pretty rural area, far away from some other locations. And so I find there are a lot of similarities in the town. It has a very, very impressive cultural center. I certainly enjoyed seeing lots of children come doing music lessons and sports and things like that, and that's very similar to the town that I live in right now. I think it appears to me there is a community spirit here, lots of support for the station, and that is very similar. I can't think of many differences really.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Спасибо. Спасибо.